Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're taking a look at episode 3 of the Halo TV show, and with this episode now finished, we're officially 1/3 of the way done through the first 9-episode long season. And I gotta say, it's been a while since I've seen a TV show which has divided the supposed hardcore audience to this degree. So let me know down in the comments, what are you thinking so far of the Halo TV show? Are you excited for the rest of season 1? Or on the other hand, are you seeing it as a write-off? I look forward to reading your thoughts. Alright, so full spoilers in this review. I'm going to say right off the bat that this may have been my favorite episode of the Halo TV show so far, but it's also the one that felt to me least like Halo. I enjoyed this episode, but I kind of felt like I didn't enjoy it as a Halo product, if that makes any sense. The story of Master Chief especially is really diverging from the way that I wanted it to go, as is the Human Covenant War, and I think that would be my major issue, and I was hoping to see this addressed in episode 3. The Covenant are meant to be an existential threat to humanity, but in this show, they've seemed like a very small faction with a couple of starships that occasionally harasses human worlds. Maybe that is what the show is intending to go for, but Halo has always been about humanity at the brink of destruction, and we just haven't got that feeling in the show. And I talked about this last episode review. To me, the focus on interpersonal drama and all of that takes away from the large-scale conflict, which I would prefer the show to focus on, but I'm not going to rehash that argument. This episode was called Emergence, and it did start off actually with some Covenant action, but rather than them just wholesale glassing a world, we saw that they identified and later abducted McKee, who's serving as their Forerunner artifact liaison. I thought the intro was a little heavy-handed. I mean, slave world with human children being killed because they took 5 minutes off. I don't know. And again, priorities. I think the Covenant at this point early on in the series should be the real identifiable threat, and then later on, maybe when humanity gets some major wins, or when the Spartans do something incredible, then you start to bring in the UNSC is actually kind of evil idea. I did really like this first planet as one that appeared in the lore previously to my recollection, and I thought just generally that throughout this episode the special effects have continued to improve as they have since episode 1, but that's also been tied to a decrease in action scenes overall. Still, the environments and everything are really great, and I do think that's definitely worth acknowledging. I also want to say that the acting overall has been pretty great as well. I also did expect to hate the alien human character, but she's been okay. I think that maybe she took a bit of a step back in my opinion in this episode. Sometimes it seems like she's fighting to separate her humanity from the Covenant. Other times it seems like she's fully on board with the Covenant, and I thought it was a little disappointing how she took no issue whatsoever in slaughtering the UNSC Corvette crew, but maybe that was because they were UNSC rather than civilians, and obviously she had a very difficult life leading up to her abduction, which has framed her whole outlook. The next major part of the episode was Cortana, and I actually really liked the creation of Cortana. I don't like that it's just Halsey and one dude in the lab. I think that's a little bit boring. I'd rather see it be an entire Oni effort, but I thought having to grow an entire clone and then brutally murder it without anesthesia is a bit more impactful than just growing a brain in a jar, which is kind of always what I expected they did when reading about Cortana's creation in the novels. I think this change, as well as how Cortana actually interfaces with Chief, would have been a change that I would have been okay with, even if the show's vision was closer to that of the original Halo story. That being said, we get a naked look at Chief in this episode, both literally, we get the Chief butt after all these years. People were worried about his face, we've seen his butt now as well, but also continually on a character sense, we're continuing to see what Chief is like underneath the Spartan armor, and to me, this is okay. I don't like the idea that rather than through indoctrination and through kidnapping children, that Spartans are being held back by things in their bodies, chips, and things altering their hormones. I think it's just a lot less interesting and also a lot less realistic. It's sort of the same problem I have with the inhibitor chip. It's basically a get out of jail free card, which ignores the more nuanced look at indoctrination that I think Halo has offered in the past, perhaps best in Halo 4. Interestingly enough, it seems like it's almost Cortana who may take on this Master Chief style story, where we already seen a bit that she's breaking through her programming to try to help Chief out, and I don't think there is going to be a moment where they flip a magical Cortana is now totally good switch. Instead, at least I hope, we see her become friends with Chief, take on some human qualities, and then eventually break some rule or do something outside of her permission parameters simply to help Chief out. So it's an interesting dynamic. I don't mind that their relationship at the beginning is somewhat somewhat adversarial, especially where Cortana does have an even more invasive role in this story. I'm not sure how I feel about the fact that she can operate as sort of a Spartan kill switch, but I think that's partially because I'm not interested in the Master Chief going rogue story whatsoever. And just generally, I'm not a big fan of how Master Chief's story is being handled. It's going to sound weird, but it's too early for him to be this introspective, especially where that's tied to him messing around with some artifact. I really don't like how the show is handling reclaimers. I don't like that Chief is one of 2 people so far we've seen who have this status, and the fact that now he's got some childhood connection I think is an interesting story, and I'm wondering what's going to happen, but I don't like it. It's just really cheesy. It feels like bad science fiction. And Mark from the Templin Institute had a really good point on my podcast Tapcaf Transmissions. We talked about the first 2 episodes of the Halo show, and he said it feels like the show is falling into the trap that a lot of sci-fi does, or a lot of fiction generally, where it takes the main character and continually finds ways to essentially make them more special. Chief was already the most famous and sometimes the luckiest Spartan. Now he's all those things, but also the inheritor who somehow encountered a Forerunner artifact when he was a child. It's just a little bit too much in my opinion. So those are my main thoughts on, I guess, the central themes and bits of this most recent episode. I will say right now, I've got very little interest in what's going on outside of the Master Chief, Cortana, UNSC stuff. So whether they can find a way to make that more interesting, I don't know. It seems like Madrigal is about to have another meeting with the Covenant. Hopefully we see some more hunters. We saw the leg of one in this episode, and some grunts and jackals, other Covenant species as well. It was kind of my hope that we would have a Red Wedding moment, as I discussed. We'd see Reach get glassed. I don't think that's going to happen until maybe next season or later in this season. It does seem somewhat disappointingly like they are a little ways away from actually visiting the Halo ring, but who knows? Again, the question for me will be whether they can get me engaged, I guess, in the other side stories. So those are my thoughts. To sort of summarize, I thought this most recent episode was not bad. Probably my favorite yet so far, but my main disappointment is just the show is moving far away from what I was hoping it would be, far away from kind of what I feel like is the basics of the Halo universe. So I'm at the point where I'm going to try to enjoy it as its own thing. There's always going to be that disappointment there, but we'll see. Until next time, guys, have a good one, be safe, and may the Force be with you.